A Sunset of the City by Gwendolyn Brooks is a symbolic poem that characterizes a woman who is in the sunset of her life. The poem is reflective of the woman's life as well as heavy with the realization that she is in the final stage of her life on earth. The poem represents a depressing and mournful viewpoint of growing old. The poem begins as the narrator describes her appearance as she is no longer viewed as beautiful or lovable. She goes on to describe that she is not in denial of her old age, though she is unhappy about it. The poem is symbolic of the speaker's life. The word sunset symbolizes the end of the day. The end of the day symbolizes rest after a long day of work. The woman's life has been spent, and it is symbolic that her work on earth is nearing the end. The word city is symbolic of activity, energy, and spirit. With the choice of the word city in the title, Brooks creates the image of someone who had a lively and passionate lifetime. With this final stage of life is not nearly as active and robust as it was. In the opening line, the woman admits she is no longer looked at with lechery or love. This line reflects that the woman was physically desirable in her youth, but the season of her life for being desired and loved has passed. Time and age has taken away her beauty and her desirability to be in her presence. In the line that follows, Brooks writes, "My daughters and sons have put me away with marbles and dolls and are gone from the house." This reflects that the woman's children have moved out and have become adults. They are leading their own independent lives now and have left her behind like the toys of their youth. Marbles and dolls are symbolic of playthings and youthful frivolity, something used to pass the time that they have outgrown. For the mother, who is the speaker of the poem, she is no longer relevant in their lives. Instead, if her adult children would return home and see the toys from their youth, they may reflect on the fun that they had with the item, but they don't take it out and play with them anymore. This is a woman whose awareness of the passage of time is matched by an awareness of all that she has experienced throughout the years of her own life. At times, her voice seems to expand beyond her own body to serve as the voice of the very city in which she lives. This is more than a simple identification of the woman with the city. It is as if, through the woman, the city speaks of the ways it has been changed by the passage of time. Here, then, the sons and the daughters who have put away their childish things are now no longer simply the sons and daughters of a singular woman, but instead have become all the young men and women who have ever left a city for a better life, a better job, or a better opportunity elsewhere. In this sense, it is the city itself that mourns the changes that have come through the years, and it is the woman who is sensitive enough to pick up on this sense of loss in the air. If it seems that the passage of time has made her a creature of habit, a woman who hurries through her prayers, she isn't in that much of a hurry to get to the end just yet. Our woman faces the sunset of her life with a sense of observation, of contemplation. She has a decision to make yet. It is the last two lines of the poem that leave us perplexed, perhaps owing to the use of the verb muff, which can mean to do something badly, or more intricately speaking, to spoil a chance to do something well or achieve something. Is she talking about life? or about death here. Towards the end of the poem, the narrator discusses that she no longer feels needed and contemplates whether to fade away slowly and miserably or to die. Old age is perceived negatively because people believe their lives will lose meaning, they will be less loved, become undesirable, and lose their importance. Brooks's use of imagery, metaphors, and rhyming emphasize the narrator's sadness and sorrow as her old age haunts her. Brooks's use of literary devices contribute to the overall theme of the poem, with emphasis on imagery, metaphors, and rhyme. Imagery is used to describe the author's damaged appearance as she grows old. The sweet flowers in drying and dying down, the grasses forgetting their blaze and consenting brown. The narrator is describing her self worth through dried out dead flowers. As flowers begin to die, they lose their physical appearance and desirability, as does she. Imagery is also used to highlight the narrator's sorrow as she no longer feels loved or of any importance. In the second line, Brooks conveys this lost love and low self worth through a comparison of the past and present. My daughters and sons have put me away with marbles and dolls, are gone from the house. The narrator is being compared to marbles and dolls, toys that are a part of your childhood and then forgotten about. The narrator no longer feels loved or needed by her children, as her role as a mother has lost its importance. Rhyme is used to stress the narrator's overwhelming feelings of needlessness. I am aware there is winter to heed, there is no warm house that is fitted with my need. The rhyme scheme stresses the narrator's desire to be needed. There is no love left in her home, and there no longer lies any importance for her. The description of winter emphasizes the narrator's loneliness and emptiness as she feels emotionally detached from the world. Gwendolyn Brooks' distinctive use of imagery, metaphors, and rhyme conveys a heartbreaking theme of negative connotations surrounding old age. Do lives lose meaning as we grow old? The poem depicts a picture in which they do. Through the use of imagery and metaphors, Brooks presents a heart-rending story in which old age is associated with loss of love, desire, and importance. A Sunset of the City is a story that leaves the reader questioning the value and importance of their own lives. This poem is similar to her other works because it illustrates a tragic and heartbreaking story. In lines 1 and 2, she uses hyperbole, and within the hyperbole, she is able to cultivate the idea that her family, even her kids, do not care about her without actually stating it. Also, within line 3, she uses the word or, and this implements the idea that in her poem, pleasant and polite are not synonyms, even though they can be interrelated. This is a prime example of ambiguity being present. She doesn't use the most common definition of pleasant, she uses the next meaning for it, and instead of comparing it to its synonym, she uses it in order to contrast. The first line of the next stanza states that it was a real chill out, but normally people would say it was chilly out. So, what was Miss Brooks's intention in doing so? Let's define the noun important word of the line chill. The noun definition of chill is a depressing influence. Therefore, she feels like she is in a depressing atmosphere. With this piece of evidence, you can see that there is a lonely, depressing tone within the poem. If we continue, we can see this tone to be even more evident. The next statement made by the speaker is that husband and lovers are pleasant or somewhat polite. It creates a question in the mind of the reader who the lovers are. On the surface, one might think that this means male physical lovers, and that may be, but there is a possibility that these lovers mean friendships instead. It would make sense that she may be referring to her husband and friends as people that are present in her life, but who offer no real meaning. It is like they tolerate her. As pleasant as these people are in her life, it doesn't change the fact that night is night. This means that sunset is nearly over and her time on earth is coming to an end, no matter what her relationships are with her family or friends. The speaker next indicates that she is not fooled into believing that there is a possibility that she is still in the summer of life. Summer would symbolize the prime of life, in full bloom, growth, and beauty. She knows that even though life goes on and there is still sunshine and birds, that doesn't mean that she's in the summer of her life. Brooks symbolizes the passing of summer and the prime of life with the image of sweet flowers in drying and dying down, as well as grasses forgetting their blaze and consenting to brown. This is symbolic of the woman's own personal beauty. She sees in herself that she is not in the prime and of blooming and blaze. Instead, she is at the stage of drying and shriveling up. Brooks repeats the phrase, "It is a real chill out," at the beginning of the second and fourth stanzas. The repetition of this phrase is used to emphasize the sense of inevitability. The speaker can't delude herself into believing that it is a temporary chill and not a change to the final season of her life. It emphasizes that it is real and lasting. She realizes that she is in a house that is ill prepared for winter. This symbolizes the decline of the woman's health. She realizes that she is heading into a stage where it will be a not be warm enough for her to survive, just as it was not warm enough for the flowers and the grass to survive. With the personification of life as a house, Brooks uses words such as echoes, tremulous, lost halls, and dusty to describe her life. The word echoes has connotations of something far off, that as time continues to pass, the sound becomes less and less. This is reflective of her memories of her youth, marriage, raising children, and managing a household. Tremulous gives the connotation of emotions and refers leaving her life behind is an emotional thing for the woman, and fear of where her life is heading next creates an impression of vulnerability. Lost Halls creates the impression that there were paths that she did not take in life and symbolizes regrets. Dusty creates the sense of non use. If something sits idle and unused, it becomes dusty. The speaker is like the dusty house, unused and gathering dust. The speaker gains acceptance of a situation and appears to see the end of this dry desert as dear relief. She feels that when death comes, it will be an island of relief from a hard life and all her grief. She mentions communication with the master shore, which would be symbolic of the day that she sees the face of God, her day of reckoning. She indicates that she hurries through her prayers. This gives the sense that she feels an urgent need for prayer in the hope for heavenly forgiveness. Earlier in the poem, she mourns for the children who no longer see her as relevant. This gives the reader a sense that the woman sees herself as a sinner in need of prayers and forgiveness to reach the master shore. Within the stanza where she says, I do not think it is still summer, she makes it known that life is not what it seems. She even states a contradicting thing in the next line, saying, because sun stays and birds continue to sing, the two signs of summer. However, the real meaning of that is that the sun and the birds are not free to move on, but instead they have to portray something to be happy. She even lets us know that the grasses couldn't bear it and forget their blaze, so they are consenting to brown. Along with this line, she uses personification in order to enhance the support. This support leads her to the conclusion that it is summer gone instead of summer because of its dullness, lack of vividness. She does not just stop here. She continues on with this vivid language. For instance, the word cold is not referred to the weather in this instance, but instead it is referred as being depressing or dispiriting, the tone and mood of the passage. To support this, she writes, there is no warm house that is fitted with my need, and this shows a sign of submitting to the society's ways. Since the world is cold, she might as well be cold too. See the ambiguity. In addition to that, she displays vivid description. Miss Brooks wants the audience to know that within this world, people would not be able to understand clearly. She sim- in similarity, the speaker knows that this is not right and wants to get to bed because it would not be as cold in her mind. She leaves the reader with the impression that the woman is left with a sense of dilemma, wondering if she would die a withering death in the winter of her life, or if she would leap and die, which would indicate thoughts of suicide. This may also indicate the need for the urgent prayers. Brooks ends the poem with a single line stanza. Somebody muffed it. Somebody wanted to joke. This final line leaves more questions than it answers. Muffed would indicate a mistake. It seems like Brooks may be symbolizing that the speaker is unhappy with her house and her surroundings. She hints at regrets, sins, and perhaps lovers. Is it the woman who fears that she has muffed it? Is she fearful at the end of her life that she has sinned so greatly that she may not see the master shore? There is also the suicidal hint, which may reflect the sin of suicide, which may be so great that after a life well lived, to kill herself would make it that she would not arrive at the master shore. Perhaps it is the intent of Brooks to have the reader feel unease at what the end is for the speaker. The final word, somebody wanted to joke, gives the sense that someone was perhaps not taking the spiritual tenets of life seriously enough and heaven and may not be rewarded. This allows us to think about how bad the world is around us and the effect of the bad world. She wants us to not submit to the effect but be true to ourselves.